Me for a while.
I know, she's adorable. Setting up your meeting for you to alive. Says we're alive. There we go. I see our smiley face. There we go. All right. Hello, everybody. We are here for a deep dive into A Course in Miracles, our Tuesday morning with friends. And we're going to be talking today about the holy instant and special relationships. We're in chapter 15, the holy instant. And so let me get our reading up and be ready. Put that share sound on there just in case. There we are, the holy instant and special relationships. Let me get my participant list up now so I can see if anybody puts their hand up. Would anybody like to read paragraph 1?
I will.
Thank you, Rafi.
The Holy Instant and Special Relationships. The Holy Instant is the Holy Spirit's most useful learning device for teaching you love's meaning. What a great sentence. For its purpose is to suspend judgment entirely. Great. Judgment always rests on the past, for past experience is the basis on which you judge. Judgment, judgment becomes impossible without the past, for without it you do not understand anything. You would make no attempt to judge because it would be quite apparent to you that you do not understand what anything means. You are afraid of this because you will believe that without the ego, all would be chaos. Yet I assure you that without the ego, all would be love. Yes, because love is my basic nature. It's your basic nature. It is our basic nature.
Thank you, Rafi. Yeah, so yeah, the whole point is to suspend judgment entirely. And isn't that what we've been talking about with the nonviolent communication? I mean, we talk about this all the time, suspending judgment entirely. And how do we do that? Because we stop looking at the past. We stop imagining a future. We stop looking at something that we think has occurred because it hasn't. And the only way he says it real clear, judgment is impossible if you don't come up with the past. Without it, you don't understand anything. And that's really what you want to be. We want to be where I don't understand. I don't understand anything. This idea that I should be able to understand things when this world is ununderstandable, not understandable, impossible to understand something that is so insane. So it's impossible, judgment is impossible without the past because that's what gives me the reference that says this is what I like, I don't like, this is good, this is ugly, this is beautiful, there is no reference without the past. And then I would recognize I don't understand what anything means. And if I'm worried about that, if I think without the ego, I mean, this is the people's excuse, isn't it? People's excuse, well, if I didn't have the ego, I wouldn't be able to drive to work. I wouldn't even know to go to work. I wouldn't have a job. If I didn't have the ego, I would just sit on the couch and eat bomb. No, you wouldn't. You would do exactly what you're going to do anyway, but you would be doing it with love. So everything that you do, you'd be doing it with love. And that's heaven on earth. That's heaven in your life right now. Rafi, please go ahead.
And without judging, which always comes from separate lack, limitation, all those ego victim things, you could take advantage of the lessons that this dream world that doesn't exist anyway is teaching us. So, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Anybody else have any thoughts about this? I mean, it seems so simple. Seems so simple. Yeah, and yeah, wow. Let me let me just stop comparing. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And Dove is posting in the chat. Judgment is a comparison. Ego lives by comparison. Ego is fear. Love and fear cannot coexist. They live in two different worlds. There's nothing in this world I want. Lesson 128. Beyond this world, there is a world I want. Lesson 129. And it's impossible to see two different worlds. That's the whole point of this whole course, is right here. Impossible. I can either see a world that's the past, or I can see right now, the holy instant. That's it. There is no other alternative. Only one is real. Exactly, Dove. One is real, the other's not. Beautiful. Did anybody want to share anything? Yes, Jesus is very clear. All right. Paragraph 2. Who would like to read paragraph 2?
I will.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. The past is the ego's chief learning device. For it is in the past that you learn to define your own needs and acquired methods for meeting them on your own terms. So everything I know from the past. That's for sure. And you might say everything I learned in kindergarten, even though I didn't go to kindergarten. But yeah, in my own life, I can just say that once I had my spiritual awakening when I was 32, what happened before is like it has no meaning for me whatsoever. And I was just reading that in the course just the other day, that once you choose your right mind, and that's how you come to this Course in Miracles. I listened to Ken. He said you can only come to this Course in Miracles once you choose your right mind, and then the course appears for you. Once you choose your right mind, the things of the past really are not there for you unless you, unless you want to reminisce and be sentimental about it. That's up, that's up to, like that's freedom. I have the freedom to keep going into the past. People do that to be right, unbelievable, but that's it. Anyway, let's see, define your own needs and required methods for meeting them on your own terms. Yeah, so you learn how to control, you learn how to get approval. All those words sound familiar, don't they? Don't they, Rafi? You need security. I gotta make money. You gotta laugh at this stuff. We have said that to limit love. We said that to limit love to part of the sonship is to bring guilt into your relationships and thus make them unreal. Yeah. As soon as you think of anybody and you think that they've done you wrong, song, you're back in the ego's prison. You're stuck in flypaper, baby. If you seek to separate out certain aspects of the totality and look to them to meet your imagined needs, you're attempting to use separation to save you. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Certain people will do that for me, right? I'm gonna hang out with them and don't hang out with the rest of the crowd. How then could guilt not enter? Yeah, I'm separating the wheat from the chaff. I know what's good. And I know what's not good. I know. I know is another word for the ego. For separation is the source of guilt. Oh my God. I've been doing this to myself all my life. And to appeal to it for salvation is to believe that you are alone. Oh God. I'm so glad I have happy. To be alone is to be guilty. Oh my God. That's a 6-word sentence, a 7-word sentence. To be alone is. And as Karen would say, she loves when the is in italics. To be alone is to be guilty. Yeah. For to experience yourself as alone is to deny the oneness of the Father and the Son, and thus to attack reality. Well, haven't we been saying that all along? Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you so much for that, Dove. Yes. And again, here's a whole paragraph that Jesus explains to us what is happening in our experience here. And what is really happening in our experience is we're seeking out certain aspects of the totality. We're separating them out. We're saying, I want to associate with a masculine person, and I want to, uh, be, whatever. Everything that I decide that I want that is breaking out something out of the totality experience, making it exclusive or separate or special. That's what I'm doing. I'm using it to meet my quote imagined needs. And I'm doing that by using separation to save me. And if that doesn't cause me to feel guilty, why would I feel guilty if I said me first, always? I want what I want, and I don't care what you want. I don't care what you need. My experiences are the most important experiences, which is what we say every day, isn't it? Isn't that what is the ego is telling us every day? My experience is more important, is more useful, is more or less. I could think that I don't deserve the experiences that I have, thinking that there's something wrong with me. Again, how can I not be guilty if I think that there's something wrong with me? That means that God screwed up when he made me, that God screwed up when he made the world. Whatever it is, if I'm thinking that my specialness is what's going to save me because God is unreliable, I'm going to feel guilty. So, that's it. To be alone is to be guilty. I love that. To be alone is to be guilty. I mean, that is just such a stunning statement. For to experience yourself as alone is to deny the oneness of the Father and his Son and thus attack reality. I mean, just I don't know if Jesus could be any clearer. That's why when we reject anything or anybody or any situation or any gender or any political party or anything, we're rejecting the very thing that is here to be my salvation. Glorian, please go ahead.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. I'm going to be in and out here today, but this is just amazing, especially the last part. But the recognition that the past is the ego's chief learning device. Everything that we see, every projection or judgment is based upon our past learning. So like we were saying last night, once we recognize that and we stop projecting the judgment and just say, okay, what is my thinking telling me so that I can make a different choice about that? So, for it is in the past that you learn to define your own needs and acquired methods for meeting them on your own terms. So basically, this is just aligning with the ego and everything that we've seemingly been taught here. And the idea too, in this paragraph, what was coming to me, that recognition that everything is the upside down thinking. You know, we look at it, we say, okay, we're going to look at the upside down thinking and the error. Everything, all of it is upside down. We have said that to limit love to part of the sonship is to bring guilt into your relationships. So that's what you were saying, Lynn, you know, seeing someone as a body. So that is limiting love. So we want to get to that place where we recognize what's really there beyond the concept of body, tall, short, black, white, whatever it is, whatever, you know, dualistic term that we're projecting out there. So we're limiting love by doing that in our judgments and duality. To part of the sonship is to bring guilt into all your relationships. So we can't have it both ways. Either we are seeing the split or we are recognizing the Christ, and thus make them unreal. If you seek to separate out certain aspects of the totality and look to them to meet your imagined needs, you are attempting to use separation to save you. So we come to that place where we recognize that all special love is really the same thing as special hate. And we recognize if we say we love someone from the ego's point of view, it's something about them that we think we do not have that we're going to get, or it's something in ourselves that we're seeing out there that we admire. So it never has anything to do with the other person at all, because everything's happening in our mind based upon our past projection. So that's why we want to get to that place where we take this special relationship and make it the holy relationship where we recognize the oneness of all equally. How then could guilt not enter? Because guilt is that fearful voice of the ego that we're listening to from our past associations and projecting them into the future. For separation is the source of guilt. There we go. And to appeal to it for salvation is to believe you are alone. This is really important. That recognition that in the ego, in our acceptance of the false self, we're alone. We're not alone when we accept the omniscience and the omnipresent Spirit of God as what we are. That's the only way we're not alone. So this is very important in the upside down thinking of the world. And from my own personal feeling from talking to everybody over the years, I think that's one of the last things that we let go of because we're identified with the concept of the body. But once we recognize that we're not this body and we move into greater awareness of presence, then we recognize that we're really not alone and never could be. For to experience yourself as alone is to deny the oneness of the Father and his Son. That means the entire sonship. The Father is the Son, extended everywhere, the one Son, and thus to attack reality. So if we are saying that we're alone, we've associated with that ego the false sense of being, and we're attacking the reality of what we are in truth, which is really the war against yourself. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for that breakdown, Glorian. Yeah, it seems so simple. And I guess just, recognizing, when I'm doing it. That's all we have to do right now is just recognize when I'm doing it and not feel guilty about it, but let it go. And that can be, I mean, that's every minute of the day, every moment of the day. We don't have to wait until we have some big grievance against somebody or, somebody triggers us. Because if you pay attention to your own thinking, you're going to recognize that it is happening all the time. And I see Rafi has his hand up. That's one thing I was going to mention is, Rafi will often say, and maybe he's going to say now, when this came up, I started getting triggered and I had to release and release and release. And I recognize, how many times have I gotten triggered? I didn't even recognize I was being triggered. I just thought this was the way I was feeling and didn't realize that there was something there that needed to be looked at or addressed. So, thank you, Rafi, for opening me up to that place where I could actually just stop at any moment in the midst of this having these conversations and, look at my judgments and let them go. It's a phenomenal practice, and I'm so grateful for it. Anyway, go ahead, Rafi, now that I got you all chuffed up here. Go ahead.
The sentence, to be honest, to be guilty, just jumped off the page at me, because when my wife left her body, there was that feeling of alone, and then I welcomed all of the grief and let it go, and realized that the grief was showing me how much love there was. So from that point on, every time that sense of alone came, I welcomed it and cheered it, because it was showing me how much love there was. And then, of course, I wasn't alone, because then I could talk. I talk to my wife twice a day. Uh, Where'd she go? You can't go anywhere. There's only the oneness. And so that was really great. So the fear or the guilt of alone, that all went away. And when I'm missing her, I love that I miss her. And I'm right back in love again. The other thing is, there's a man that I have been friends with since the late 1970s. And if you want to see what's going on in your life, watch how whatever reoccurs. He is a guy who, when you talk to him, you say, "Hi, how you doing?" He starts talking and tells you everything that's going on in his life. Everything. And he doesn't leave anything out, and never gives you a chance to talk. He never asks, "And how are you doing?" He just talks and talks and talks and talks and talks. Well, I love the guy, but I realized that part of what I was doing was putting up with. And putting up with is an ego concept. It's not love. It's not openly accepting. It's not, I'm waiting for him to stop talking, and then maybe I'll say something. And, but he moved away. He moved to the actor's home, and it's far away, so I don't get to see him very often anymore. So what happened? Somebody else took his place. But there's a friend of mine, and we go to this little cafe in my neighborhood, and 2 or 3 times a week, and we have a cup of something and a little pastry, and we chat and we talk. He wants to know more about releasing. He was in AAA for, I don't know, like he's been clean and sober for like 18 years or something like that. But he wants to move on spiritually, and he asks me a lot of times for stuff about releasing. I tell him about the Zoom things, about the Course in Miracles, and spiritual stuff comes up, and but another guy shows up, and this guy is he has one political mindset. And when you start talking, you say, "Hey, how you doing, Walter?" Big, he starts talking about that. "Did you see what's going on in Gaza? Did you make anything? This is all kind of this is all of this, and this is this, and material this, but," and he just goes on and on and on and on. And I realized that he was just replacing the other guy. That it was showing me once again that I'll just have to put up with this guy. I'd like to change his mind. I'd like him to be a little more, and that's wanting control. And I realized, okay, you want to see what the things that needs correcting. Watch the stuff that keep repeating itself in your life. Watch the stuff that keeps repeating myself in my life. Well, this guy took this other guy's place, just so I could take a look at that and finally correct it. Well, yesterday he was there again, and he started in again with all of this stuff. But this time, I said, he's entitled to his opinion, and it's only an opinion. And I just sat there and loved him and listened. And there was no wanting to change him, wanting to change his mind, wishing he would be different, wishing he would drop the subject. There was none of that stuff. And I realized I finally made the correction that these two guys have been trying to teach me for the longest time. I finally got it. And all of a sudden, and I went home last night, and made sure that there wasn't anything left of that, and let go of even more of it. And it was a lot of wanting control. and let go of even more and more and more and more and more of it. And then I saw how everything here is a lesson, how everything is teaching us, and how one guy, when I lost constant contact with him, this other guy came and took his place. Now all of this stuff is going on in my mind. It's like how many times have we heard Dove say, "I'm the dreamer of the dream"? I put them there to show me what I needed to let go of and clear out so I can get quieter and remember the truth of what I am, my only purpose. So thank you.
Thank you for that, Rafi. And wow, yes. And I had to realize as I was listening to you, the only reason and the only way that you were able to actually do any of that is because you think you're worth it. You recognize that you are worth that that effort to look at your mind and to release those things. And I'm just again, I love it so much and thank you. Dove, please go ahead. You're muted.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Rafi. I felt moved to add to what I had said earlier. I use the expression that after my spiritual rebirth, which happened when I was 32, I didn't really look back and see anything that was ever worth holding on to. It's like your mind is renewed completely. And I use the expression that I heard Ken mention that once you've chosen your right mind, there's really no going back. Really, you are then shown the Course in Miracles. The Course in Miracles is given to you when you've chosen your right mind, which is pretty much why Ken used to say, "Listen, your life is working for you. This course is not for you." So it's when you finally say, "Hey, is there another way of seeing?" Now, what I wanted to add here is that he did say one other thing, which is very, very, very important. You see that your interest and your brother's interest is the same interest. That's what the right mind is. You don't see a difference. You see that you are equal. And something you just said, Lynn, you you see your own value in your own mind. Your value appears in form. Like, oh, I gotta make more. Oh, I'm making more money. Oh, so it has to do with this world. That's where your value is. But when you see that your interest and your brother's interest is the same, you're seeing your brother as equal. You're seeing that your value and your brother's value is the same value. So I just wanted to include that. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Duff. Yeah, that's it exactly. That's it exactly. And that's why doing this work will release you from a lot, all the fear, all the upset, everything that you that feeling of aloneness, that feeling of just maybe being lost or anything. That all of that is released when you give up that the thought that you're not worth it. When you recognize that you're really worth doing that work, and when you do the work, it releases and releases and releases. And I also wanted to say something about this. We have all had spiritual rebirths. We are all resurrected. We have all had spiritual rebirth. We are all resurrected. We are just now really beginning to realize it. We're just it already happened, but we're just now beginning to experience the effects of it because we're not prepared. Excuse me. Being that we were so identified with the body, not prepared to accept a spiritual rebirth, because the mind of the ego couldn't comprehend what that was. but we've all experienced it. And right now, this is why you can say, recognize an awakened person will know that you are awakened too. An awakened person will know that you are awake as well. That's why if anybody tells you that they're awake and they're not seeing that you're awake, then they're not awake. They're still dreaming, because the awakened mind sees the awakened mind everywhere, and it's in each and every one of us. We are all there. We're just now recognizing, realizing these things are overcoming the resistance that the ego mind has to experiencing as they are. But we're all there. So, when you say, when I had my spiritual awakening, when I was 32 or whatever, that's absolutely true. And, now you're experiencing the effects of it, because we have to go through looking at our resistance. And, the resistance doesn't just drop away. We have to let it go. We're holding on to it with all our might, but we have to let it go. And that's why the release, letting go, is, I mean, it's such a joy, such a grace. Glorian, please go ahead.
Wow, some beautiful sharing here this morning. So many important points to look at. I love what you said there, Lynn. Right. The awakened mind sees the awakened mind, and illumination dissolves all material ties, binding men together with the spiritual chains of understanding, which is comes from Joel, but really that's the recognition of the light, acceptance of the light, and the recognition of the light. And I like what you said also, because the fact that we are all here studying this means that we felt the touch of spirit. So we've all had spirit touch our hearts and minds and bring us to where we are now. I like what Dove shared, the recognition that everyone's interests are the same. We're all equal. We're equal in truth, and we're equal in accepting the false mind. So once we recognize that all of our interests are the same, we want to feel loved, safe, free, whole, well, complete, whatever it is, those are what we really, really want. And that's what every single ego, beyond the projection of fear and guilt, does want to be home in God. So we take responsibility for our projections. We recognize this. We recognize the judgments that we're placing on our brother, which is really showing us the same thing about ourselves. And then we bless. We make no demands. We let all things be as they are. And I love Rafi's honest share. And it's really important to come out and be honest about that, watching the judgments. And like we were saying last night, there's a certain amount of feelings, guilt, shame, whatever it was, depression. I don't know the other one, but what Rafi's always saying, control, acceptance, safety. These are the things that we really are looking for. And it's all the same. It's the same in all of us, ultimately boiling down to control. Do I want to be right, happy? Do I want to be aligned with the ego or aligned with the Christ? That's the choice that we're constantly making, where the ego wants to keep control of the false self. But like what we shared last night, getting to that place of willingness not to judge and drop the judgment, which is what Rafi said. Is he just going to put up with it, or is he going to be willing to see it differently? And then, what are my thoughts telling me about what I feel? That's what we said last night. And if you really think about that, that is taking responsibility for sight. It's making that space. So we're looking at what we're doing. We're waiting. We're making the space, and then we're making that choice not to judge it, as Jesus tells us to do in the Course. So I guess it's very important, once we recognize that these are my thoughts telling me something, and then I'm having this feeling, but I can change these thoughts and then move into a different space or a different feeling. Then we're empowering ourselves instead of leaving ourselves as victims, where we're continuing to feel victimized and cast blame through judgment out there on our brother. So this is really taking back our control, usurping our power back from the ego, and recognizing we have that opportunity to see it differently. Thanks so much, all of you, for your share.
Wow, yeah. Thank you so much, Glorian, for that. I mean, you really kind of tied it all together there. And this is, I mean, really, this is all we're doing here right now is we're just tying together all the if this is this and this is this and this means this and this, and it's all kind of coming together as a cohesive picture of the state that we believe that we're in, and the resolution to it, how to move out of that. And Jesus mentions guilt a lot. And that was part of what Marshall was talking about last night was, that fear, guilt, shame, and depression. Those are all things uh, that we experience as feelings that are really pointing to our core belief of who we are and what we are, and our core belief of the purpose of our relationships and what's happening in our relationships. And when we can recognize that we're being motivated by those things, then we can actually then look for, where is this? Where am I doing this? And let it go. So it's not just about, having, more productive conversation with people. It's about actual joining with our equals, our brothers who are equal, who are one with me. I trust my brother who is one with me. You know, that's how you can do it. Because once we recognize that we're dealing with the Christ in whatever disguise it may be, even our own face in the mirror, once I recognize that, then it changes, it shifts the entire relationship, and every relationship is shifted by it. And my belief in my own guilt is gone because I know that it could not have happened. I could never have willfully separated from the one that I love. And that's really, true love never dies. It doesn't fade away, it doesn't change. And once you discover what that is and discover true love, then none of these other relationships, I mean, of course, they're love. And so we can see them as being whole and being love, but not the divided love that the world teaches us, and that the ego teaches us through this belief in the past. Simple enough. All right, any other comments on paragraph 2? All right, well, we'll go on to paragraph 3. And who would like to read paragraph 3 for us? All right, I will read. Okay, paragraph 3. This is chapter 15, the Holy Instant, section 5, the Holy Instant and Special Relationships. Paragraph 3. You cannot love parts of reality and understand what love means. If you would love unlike to God, who knows no special love, how can you understand it? To believe that special relationships with special love can offer you salvation is the belief that separation is salvation, for it is the complete equality of the atonement in which salvation lies. How can you decide that special aspects of the sonship can give you more than others? The past has taught you this. Yet the Holy Instant teaches you it is not so. So again, the Holy Instant is teaching me that the past, the things that I know of the past are not so. And because they're not so, there is no special aspect of the sonship that can give me any more than any other. There's no man that can give me any more than any other man. There's no woman that can give me any more than any other woman. There's not a million men or women who can give me any more. There's nothing that 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 can be shared more than 100%. 100% is all there is. It is one, it is whole. For it is the complete equality of the atonement in which salvation lies. So that equality is the love of all for all. The knowing that there is not one single aspect of the world, of the sonship, that can be separate from any other single aspect of the sonship. It's all a one thing. It's all or nothing. And if you're accepting special relationships, you're 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 having unholy relationships. Special relationships are not going to give you a holy relationship, um, or a whole relationship. It's impossible. Um, to believe that special relationships with special love can offer you salvation is the belief that separation is salvation. And how our hearts yearn for that separate special one, that special separate one that is Paul McCartney, I'm so in love with you. I'm remembering back, my early teenage years, looking at these idols and thinking that I was in love with them, and that I would want to spend my life with them, and not even imagining what the reality of that would be like. It just was a dream, an idea, a story. And it came from what? Dreams and ideas and stories that were told to me about, princes and princesses and love and romance. And, I mean, the whole ego mind is made up of setting you up to have special relationships, and to think that your salvation was going to happen because of the special relationship. And when things went wrong in the special relationship, then all was lost. And you felt like there was nothing to live for. Paul married someone else. Oh no. uh Not really. I was not I was a Beatle fan, but I was not a Paul McCartney um uh, fan, but he was very popular because he had a very sweet face, very sweet looking guy. And that look, the way people look, the beauty of the body, or the uniqueness of the personality, or whatever it is, it doesn't matter what it is. If I'm holding it as being special and thinking that there's no one else on earth like you, no one else that can fill this aching soul, I've completely given up on the reality of it's the entire sonship that is needed. God is lonely without me. And it's true, because I'm holding myself away and being empty, wishing for all of it. So you cannot love parts of reality and understand what love means. If you would love unlike to God, who knows no special love, how can you understand it? How can you understand it? Glorian, please go ahead.
Yeah, this is so clear. I love everything that you shared. And this part here, for it is the complete equality of the atonement in which salvation lies. We can only see our brother as equal if we've accepted ourselves in innocence and sinlessness and guiltlessness, what we truly are. Otherwise, we're in that ego evaluative mind that's seeing distinctions. So how can you decide that special aspects of the sonship can give you more than others? This is the projection of what we think, which is ego, judgment, duality. That's not love, it's separation. The past has taught you this. So there we go again. You know, based upon the ego thinking of the past, what we've accepted, that false sense of self, the false concepts, other people's mad ideas, which have, we've accepted as our own. That is exactly the holy instant. That's what we need. The holy instant teaches you it is not so. And in that holy instant, we're in that quiet mind. In the quiet mind, where there's no projection of guilt and fear, there is equality. There's no separation because there's no thoughts to project judgment, which separates. So he's telling us the only way out of here, I can escape from the world I see by giving up attack thoughts. Every single thought is an attack. So we have to give up thoughts altogether. The only way we can do that is in the quiet mind, in the holy instant, where we experience ourselves as the love of God. And that's the miracle. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Gloria. Beautiful. And yeah, it just is like you said, it's so clear when you see it. Of course. So but when we don't see it, we do believe that we're victims, and we do believe that there's a justification for separation. Um, but that complete equality is the thing that's the most important. Um, and just having an open mind to that. Just having instead of when you see somebody on the street or you meet somebody, not think, what are you going to do to me? But think, what are you going to do for me? What is the gift that you came to bring to me? Because I'm not having a relationship with you that isn't based on something that the Holy Spirit has sent to me. So there's no reason to fear. Rafi, please go ahead.
Yeah, it just hit me again how we are here to raise each other's consciousness. That's how we serve and are served every nanosecond. And when I look back at my relationship with my son, and I look back at my relationship with my wife, and I look back at relationships with other people, what I was doing without even realizing it was raising their consciousness. And what they were doing without me paying any attention to it was they were raising my consciousness. We're here to serve each other. That's why Robert Adams, Lester Levinson, and a bunch of others said to share the method. If you have a method that raises consciousness, share it with others. They'll take it to the degree that they'll be receptive to it to the degree that they are, and there are no mistakes there. If they're completely open and receptive to it, that's fine. If they're partially receptive to it, that's fine. But that's what we're here for, to make those contributions. And if we're aware of it or not, we're still doing that. So I looked at all of this other stuff and those people who were teaching me lessons, that's raising my consciousness. My wife raised my consciousness. I raised her consciousness. It was effortless. We just showed up every day and did what we did. But through us, that divine presence that works through us was handling it all perfectly. And it wasn't like, gee, you know what I got to do today? I got to raise somebody's consciousness. No, what I got to do today is I got to brush my teeth. Then I got to go to the store. Then I got to, okay? But my focus is, what is my main purpose? And if that main purpose is kept first and foremost and only, all that other stuff happens naturally and perfectly.
Thank you, Rafi. And that is absolutely true. That's my experience too. That's my experience too. You seek ye first the kingdom, and all things will be added unto you. That's all we have to do, really do. And where am I seeking for the kingdom? I'm not seeking for the kingdom outside of myself. I'm not seeking for the kingdom. Of course, I'm seeking for the kingdom inside of myself, but where else is the kingdom? The kingdom is in my brother. The kingdom is in this world that I have, somehow or the other, distanced myself from, not for any real good reason, because the joining with the brother is the thing that helps me recognize my own holiness. So, you're right in there. You're doing the right thing. Let's see. Anybody else have anything on this paragraph? All right, well, we'll move on. We have time to read another paragraph. And this might bring some stuff up. And I'll just go ahead and read this.
If you want me to read, I'll read.
Oh, sure. Yeah, please.
Okay. Because of guilt, all special relationships have elements of fear in them. This is why they shift and change so frequently. They are not based on changeless love alone. And love, where fear has entered, cannot be depended on because it is not perfect. In his function as interpreter of what you made, the Holy Spirit uses special relationships which you have chosen to support the ego as learning experience that points to the truth. Under his teaching, every relationship becomes a lesson in love. And of course, you want to, it's all inclusive. So if I leave anybody out of the circle, then that will affect my consciousness. And why would I do that when it's all me anyway? So, in his function as interpreter of what you made. So every special relationship turns into a holy relationship, because once you see the wholeness in everyone, we're all equal, there really isn't any specialness. And everything is a lesson in love, simply because that's all this course is about, love or call for love. That's all I have. I got to get this, my phone's ringing, so.
Okay, thank you, Sharon. Thank you for reading. Yeah, so that's true. Every relationship eventually does become a holy relationship because it's the only real relationship there is. And we may not recognize it because we have all these blocks to the awareness of it, but it's absolutely true. So, yeah, because of guilt, And again, that's why being aware of my feelings um, really helps me to look at, what is that and where did that come from? And it's interesting. There's so many great methods out there for examining the mind, but forgiveness, just using the Course in Miracles and practicing forgiveness, to me is just as simple as anything else. Um, so, anybody else have any thoughts about this paragraph? But just understand whatever your situation, whatever relationship you happen to be in, whatever, these are all the Holy Spirit in action. This is not something that's coming to us from somewhere else. It's all the Holy Spirit in action. And once we understand that, once we're clear on that, then there's no reason to feel afraid or guilty, because I'm not responsible for the story of the dream. I'm not responsible. The only thing I'm responsible for is whether or not I believe the story and whether or not I allow the story to take my sunshine away and make me not live in love. Rafi, please go ahead.
That last sentence really says it all. Under his teaching, every relationship becomes a lesson in love. We're here, it's a school. We're here to learn from each other. And And it's so perfectly designed, but divinely designed for our benefit, there can be no mistakes in it. Whatever happens unfolds exactly when we right back into acceptance. Everything unfolds exactly the way it's supposed to unfold for our benefit or our best interest. That isn't just me, that means universally. And under his teaching, every relationship becomes a lesson in love. Where else can you come from, the more powerful than we are all, that infinite love? And that love is what is the instigator of all teaching. Thank you.
Thank you, Rafi. You are quite right. So true. Glorian, please go ahead.
Yeah, I love that. And the first sentence here, because of guilt, all special relationships have elements of fear in them, because guilt is what the ego is. And listening to that fearful voice of the ego is the guilt that's projected to make the relationship special. That's why they shift and change, because they're not based on changeless love alone, that changeless dwelling place where there isn't any more fear and guilt to be projected. And the last sentence here, under his teaching, as we continue to allow the Holy Spirit to lead and direct our life, every relationship, and we can say every trial, every lesson becomes a lesson in love. And what is love except what we are in truth? So once we recognize that, the ego is going to have everything changing frequently because it's never satisfied. There's constantly desire, more, different. So once we recognize that and we allow the Holy Spirit to lead and direct our life, that's where true perception comes in, where we learn to recognize our brother as he truly is. And if we're doing that, then we've accepted what we are. And that's really the miracle. Once we accept that we're the Spirit of God, and this comes in that holy instant from out of time, from which is an experience. So it's an experience, not a thought. So we use every relationship, every trial, every seeming temptation that comes up, and recognize that it's a special relationship that's giving us the opportunity to become a lesson in love. Thanks.
Thank you, Glorian. Very well said. Very well said. I appreciate that so much. And, that's what we're here for. Learn those beautiful lessons of love. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the share and close off.